Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. The only conversation that I think Notre Dame fans are interested in having as you wake up Tuesday morning is, hey, how do we get over the hump going into 2025? I promise you that is the exact question Marcus Freeman is asking himself as he wakes up Tuesday morning. Now, where do you want to start? The structure's in place. The foundation is certainly in place. I don't think there's a program that we saw better player development from and culture from throughout the 2024 year. And the amount of injuries that this team had to endure in the 2024 year, starting with Charles Jagasaw going down to fall camp, working his way back to start in the national championship game, talking about Benjamin Morrison, talking about Riley Mills. These weren't just any ordinary injuries. These were some of the best football players on this Notre Dame team at some really damn important positions that Notre Dame lost for the season throughout the 2024 year, and they still found themselves with a chance to win a national championship. So the biggest takeaway you have if you're a Notre Dame fan is, look, the structure is in place. The foundation is in place. You have the right man leading this program to get you to win a national championship. Now it's about just continuing to put yourself in that spot, and the right moment's going to find you. And so if you're Notre Dame, it's, hey, we got the foundation down. What is that 1% we have to find to become national champs in the 2025 year? That's the conversation that I want to get into before we do. And as always, to the Notre Dame fans, let it fly in the comment section. This is primarily going to be what we talk about in the offseason. Is, hey, there's a lot of stuff that you like about Notre Dame going into 2025. Where does Notre Dame need to get better in going into the 2025 year to get over the hump? Would love to hear from y'all. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. To the Notre Dame fans, this program has been a blast to talk about over the last couple of months. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. Without further ado, let's get into this one. And let's start with, basically just the conversation of, hey, what went wrong in this football game and what needs to get fixed going into 2025. And I think it starts with a downfield passing attack that is a little bit more reliable. You look at Notre Dame, and the biggest question mark we had about them going into the college football playoffs was, is this explosive passing attack, which you will need in certain games to win a national championship, was it there for Notre Dame? And I think part of that answer is no. You saw it come on late in the fourth quarter, but when Notre Dame struggled to run the football after that first drive against Ohio State, that offense just really couldn't stay on the football field, period. Ohio State started putting bodies in the box. And when you start playing teams like Ohio State, you talk about national championship caliber football games and football teams, you saw a lot of teams load the box against Notre Dame and try to stop the run. And it didn't really matter because this Notre Dame rushing attack was so damn good that they didn't really need to have the downfield passing attack answer against a team like Ohio State. If they're going to walk that safety into the box, which they did pretty consistently after that first drive, you have to be able to punish them over the top and work the ball vertically down the field. And that was really the biggest question mark we had about Notre Dame coming in. Now, what you're excited about going into the 2025 year is, I think there's a lot of confidence within the building of Notre Dame about this passing attack going into 2025. Look, I think there's a reason that Notre Dame wasn't really pursuing any transfer portal quarterbacks. I think they feel good about Angeli. I think they feel really good about CJ Carr. I think the quarterback play is going to be a lot better than a lot of people think going into the 2025 year. But the bigger storyline for me is this pass catcher room is already supposed to be really good. I think could potentially be very good in 2025. And you saw Jaden Greathouse. He is emerging as one of the better wide receivers that we see in the country. What we saw from him on Monday night against Ohio State, the plays he was able to single-handedly make for Notre Dame, you might have a true wide receiver one. He's only going into year 3. You have Jordan Faison coming back going into year 3. You're bringing guys like Malachi Fields and Will Pauling in the transfer portal. It was clearly a position that Marcus Freeman identified as something we want to fix going into 2025. The thing I'm most excited about is, look, this downfield passing attack might be there a little bit more than it was in 2024. And that was one of the things that always felt like it was holding Notre Dame back. When Ohio State decided to load the box, it just didn't seem like Notre Dame had the answers pushing the ball down the field. Now, the second storyline is this offensive line. One, the player development is out of this world. I mean, the amount of injuries that this Notre Dame offensive line endured and not really skip a beat throughout the 2024 season. Very impressive. I think every single starter that started for Notre Dame was not a senior. They didn't have a single senior starting in the national championship game on the offensive line. A lot of these guys are going to be back. A lot of these guys are going to be better in 2025. This offensive line in the run blocking department was very, very good all year. You saw some struggles in pass protection. I think that might have led to some of the struggles in terms of the downfield passing attack. I look at the offensive line and say, we're feeling pretty good. And so you start looking at it and say, all right, running back is going to be great. Like Jeremiah Love getting fully back healthy in 2025 is going to be huge because he clearly was not healthy later in the college football playoffs. Feel really confident about the quarterback situation. Feel much more confident about the pass catches on the outside. And an offensive line that's pretty much going to look the same and only get better going into 2025 with all that continuity. This offense, there's a lot of reason to be optimistic that it takes a step in 2025. And that is kind of what seemingly held Notre Dame back when you played in some of these big games. Was our offense explosive enough to hang with the teams like Ohio State or to hang like a team like Texas that you might see in the national championship next year? You got to have the explosive playmakers on the outside. It looks to me like they might have that in 2025. Moving over to the defense, the depth on the defensive line became a problem, and it wasn't necessarily anybody's fault, but just injuries. When you lose guys like Riley Mills and a laundry list of other names, it's hard. It's hard to have that depth on the team with the transfer portal being the way it is. Keeping guys in the 2 and 3 deep that are good football players that can start on a lot of other football programs. Hard to keep those guys around, and Notre Dame largely has done that. And I thought the defensive line wasn't great. I think we all know that. Ohio State ran for over 200 yards, but with all the injuries that they dealt with, it was an impressive showing. You look at the defense against Ohio State and just say, one, it was an uncharacteristically not great game for Notre Dame, especially in the front seven. You saw a couple of bad run fits. You saw a couple of missed tackles. And when you play a team like Ohio State and you have some bad run fits and missed tackles, they will make you pay. And that's what Ohio State did. And then in the secondary, look, you didn't have your best cornerback in Benjamin Morrison. The secondary has been very, very good all year, but you hadn't really seen anything like these Ohio State wide receivers. And quite frankly, there's just nothing like these wide receivers that we saw for Ohio State in 2024. And what you saw Notre Dame kind of struggle with is, hey, we're going to start with a little bit of zone. You give Coach Kelly and Coach Day some real credit in terms of coming out and having some answers for the zone coverage. Notre Dame goes to man coverage. When you play man coverage against Ohio State, it's really hard to make sure you're winning all those matchups with all the talent that they have, whether it's Jeremiah Smith, whether it's Cardinal Tate, whether it's Emeka Egbuka. It's hard to play man coverage, even if you're as good as Notre Dame against a team like Ohio State. Now, a couple of things I'm excited about. A lot of young cats in the secondary coming back. Bryce Young's going into year 2. You got 2 really good linebackers in Bowen and Kingston Viliamu-Asa. The pipeline's there for Notre Dame. The player development's there. The culture's there. There's a lot of things that Notre Dame is checking, and now it's just about that 1% better. And I think it largely comes down to, can we have difference makers on the outside that makes our offense a little bit more two-dimensional? And if teams, really good teams, that want to load the box and really try to take away the run game, do we have answers for that in the 2025 year? Malachi Fields, Will Pauling, Jaden Greathouse, Jordan Faison going into year 3. I think you do have those answers. That'll be the big storyline for Notre Dame going into 2025. But you make no mistake about it, this is a team that you start doing way too early projections and say, this is a team that's going to find themselves in the college football playoffs once again. Now they've been there. They've made that run. They know what it looks like. They know what it feels like. Buy your stock in Notre Dame, because this team is not going anywhere in 2025. And we're going to have the conversation of, hey, over the next couple of months, what can you do in the transfer portal? What does it look like in spring practice for this team getting over the hump in the 2025 year? We'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.